A very good evening, Sahanya and Navindu. You all are welcome to the 9th session of Academic Literacy for STEM Studies program. Yes. Tonight we are going to go beyond what we have discussed last week from WordPress. Yes, if you could remember, last week we were actually plotting the whole WordPress in a narrative of a marriage, where how the lexical verb and the helping verb are going to be in a relationship, and we have cleared almost all the active voice sentences. Can you remember the lessons, Hanya and Navindu? I'm sure that you all confirmed me that you happen to clear all the doubts related to WordPress with that. And we are going to go beyond that today with contextualizing the so-called grammar in technical and of course in academic contexts. දැන් මේ දරුවෝ පන්තියේ ඉන්නවා කියලා මට ඉඟි කරන්න මොකක් හරි ප්‍රචාරයක් දෙන්න so that I'll be able to go ahead. I would love if you can simply unmute and speak yes or good evening or something.
I'm here.
Thank you, Madam Ashwini. Sahanya with a thumbs up, she said yes. Navidu, can I hear from you? Okay, Navidu, yours. So it was last week that we come to know that this WordPress deals with two aspects, the lexical verb I happen to squeeze. Okay, so in this discussion of WordPress, we come to know that a sentence has some central element, what we call a verb. And when it creates the WordPress, what happened was there was this helping verb, which we identified as the male agent of the relationship. And we had a lexical verb. Both of them are verbs. And we considered it as a female partner. And we identified further, there are three male families. If you could remember, the be family, have family, and do family. And we identified three particular girls who can go on this marriage without any difficulty. We call them the bare infinitive girl, and then we had the present participle girl, and the past participle girl, if you could remember. And then we happen to create relationships between them, where we found that do boy is going to marry bare infinitive girl, and B family is going to have a relationship with present participle, which means ing girl, and have family happen to have a relationship with past participle girl, which is typically the Atita Krudante අපි ඉගෙන ගත්තා. Right. With that, we actually understood what a WordPress is. WordPress therefore, is the central element of a sentence which determines that there is an action happening. So, for example, I'm taking a sentence, I study maths. Now, in this simple sentence, you see there is the verb in the sentence study. Though we see study as a single word appear in the center, we know that it includes a verb phrase. What is the actual verb phrase in it? Do study. So it's I do study maths that appears as I study maths. Well, now this very central idea, verb or verb phrase, is a key in any grammatical relationship. Today, we are going to bring your attention to something beyond that, for which let me share the presentation slides. But before that, I want to ask from you two guys, Navidu and Sahanya, have you got anything to question from what we learned last week? Rather, is there anything that you want me to add here or describe further from the things that we learned last week? If not, we can directly go to today's session. Was the lesson that we did last week was clear? Was it crystal clear? Sahanya, were you there? If you were not there, did you watch the recording and did you get the idea? I want to hear from you guys, please. කරුණාකරලා කතා කරන්න පුතේ.
Did you like this whole story of loving and marriage and girls going to marriage and everything, or just or didn't you like that story?
Well, Navidu has responded that he missed the lesson, but anyway, no worries that he's going to watch it, the recording. What about
And
Sahanya?
Sahanya, I think
It was
Sahanya
Sahanya,
traveled
yes. Yeah.
Yes, Sahanya also was absent that day, right?
Navidu, how is your reading?
Navindu, you didn't watch the recording, right?
Navidu actually was there last week. Wasn't you, Navidu?
Yes, I was in at last day.
Was the idea clear that I
And
was
now,
delivering? Was the idea clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So with that, we can actually go ahead from where we stopped last week. And today we are going to look at sentences which are made out of such verb phrases. So in today's discussion, you'll realize that in every sentence, there is a verb phrase in the center. That is what we learned last week. And today, based on the verb phrase that is located in the center, we are going to see who else is there and how different number of verb phrases can create a bigger sentence, maybe starting from simple to compound to complex and compound sentences. So we'll be duplicating the number of verb phrases in a sentence, and with that we'll be making the sentence more and more complex. අද පාඩමේ අදහස වෙන්නේ පුතේ අපි ගිය සතියේ ඉගෙන ගත්ත verb phrases වලින් ගොඩනැගිච්ච sentences verb phrases ගණන එක වාක්‍යයක් තුළ යොදා ගන්න ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි කරමින් verb phrases එකක් දෙකක් තුනක් ආදී වශයෙන් වැඩි කරමින් ඒ සාමාන්‍ය වාක්‍ය කොහොමද academic literacy එහෙම නැත්නම් අධ්‍යයන සාක්ෂරතාවය එහෙම නැත්නම් academic context ශාස්ත්‍රීය අවශ්‍යතාවයන් සඳහා කොහොමද ඒක පුළුල් වාක්‍ය තනියම රටාවක් විදිහට ගෙනියන්නේ කියන එක බලන්න. Right. Let me share the slides here. Now I'm on yes. Today we'll be looking at these aspects, as you can see on screen. What are they? You'll start to learn the sentence structure. Particularly, you have to write reports, abstracts, you have to read journal articles, and those are the things that you have to deal with when you are getting into university. And when you are in the university, it's not simple everyday sentences, essays, and all that that you'll all be dealing with, but you'll be dealing with lab reports, then abstract writing, then assignment writing. So the things that you will be dealing in writing in the university are different. And today we are going to look at how such reports, abstracts, assignments are going to be sort of embedded, sort of included with standard sentences of different complexity level. How could they be making your writing a rich experience, right? And we'll be teaching you how the tenses which we learned last week could be correctly used in lab reports and research summaries. And as a last activity, we'll be looking at identifying and fixing some of the common grammar errors that typical technical report can include, and you will be doing some of the revisions to existing work with which you are going to learn a lot. අද දවසේ අපි sentence structures master කරනවා පුතේ. ඒ වගේම අපි විවිධ tenses කොහොමද අපේ භාවිතාවේදී අධ්‍යයන සාක්ෂරතා භාවිතාවේදී පාවිච්චි කරන්න කියන කාරණේ ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. ඒ වගේම අපි ප්‍රායෝගිකව වාක්‍ය සහ ඡේද හරහා ඒවා නිවැරදි කරමින් අපි පාවිච්චි කරපු දැනුම භාවිතයට ගන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා. So let's ask from ourselves why grammar matters in STEM, right? The first point is clear. If you do not use the accurate grammar, actually that can change, or rather that can misinterpret the meaning in a lab experiment or report or instruction or whatever you're going to write, right? So it's not simply that you write something in a way that you think correct. In lab reports and all that, we have to take the appropriate, accurate grammar structure to write it, unless your lab report might be indicating, you might be thinking to indicate something, but it might be indicating something else. So we need to solve this puzzle with accurate grammar. Well, number two, we'll be clearing your writing, and clear writing is a must, particularly because now when you start writing a lab report, if you can make your lab report clear in the first instance, your second lab report is going to be much more clearer. You know why? The more you are engaged in writing that once and again, you'll be making it clear.
Excuse me.
Yes, madam, go ahead.
Excuse me. Yes. So this is more into now it's more into like this is not more into lab reports, but the second point is like we can just like we can put into a like template, and we can take the template in the like the first the first the thing you're writing, you can use it as a template, and then the second one you can all the other reports you can just fit into that template, or So that now in lab reports, I mean, if you're into STEM context in STEM universities, I mean, from the second year, you should actually do practicals. And at the end of each practical session, you have to submit a lab report. So writing a lab report every day is very it's very hectic. So you just can write the first 2 lab reports, and it will take time. But if you write it in the correct grammatical structure and everything, you just have to for the other lab reports, you just have to just change some of the words and here and there, and then change some of the sentences here and there, and then fit it into the third lab report to suit the experiment that you're doing. So that's it.
Yeah, quite simple, Putha. Now we are actually making a life easy because the very thing that if you are repeating the same writing once and again, it will be hectic for you. And if it is the same template as Madam Ashwini said, එකම රටාවක රාමුවක දිවෙන දේවල් නම් පුතේ අපිට ඒකේ තියෙන essential features තියාගෙන ඒ පරිශ්‍රණයට ගැලපෙන විදිහට ඇතුලේ සන්දර්භය විතරක් වෙනස් කරගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්. මම දන්නේ මම සිංහලෙන් කියනකොට අර ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් කියනකට වැඩි අමාරුද කියලා, but let's go ahead with that. And in all these scientific writings, all these what we call technical writings, what is most important is strong grammar. Because when you write in such a strong and such a clear and such a very precise structure, it gives credibility not only to your writing, you're writing it for the lab purpose, maybe that you'll be taking that lab purpose writing to another level by producing your research article to the world, so that when you deal with the world, yes, if your writing is really, really clear and strong, and it is really firm with strong grammar, that will be not just a classroom or app report, it will be something that you produce to the entire world, which we call scientific discourse. ලෝකේ විද්‍යාත්මක කතාබහට එකතු වෙන තව වැදගත් පටිතයක් එහෙම නැත්නම් පාඩයක් විදිහට ඔයාගේ ලියමන ඉස්සරහට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයාගේ grammar එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාගේ ව්‍යාකරණ රීතිය ඊටාම ප්‍රබලව පාවිච්චි වෙලා ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා. හොඳයි පුතේ, අපි යමු ඉස්සරහට. We'll see what are the different types of sentences in academic writing. Now you see, there are 4 different common structures in STEM writing. The first thing is simple. Simple tenses, or rather simple sentences, are typically about any sentence which has one complete thought and which has simply one verb phrase alone. අපි පහුගිය සතියේ කතා කරපු අර verb phrase තියෙන එක verb phrase එකකින් සැදිච්ච තනි අර්ථයක් සහිත සරල ප්‍රකාශනයකට අපි කියනවා simple sentence එකක් කියලා. That is the first type of sentence that you can find in STEM writing or any sort of academic writing. And the second variety, I'm moving to the compound. The second variety is, what you're going to do here is, in your sentence, there can be certain areas where they can be connected together. Say, for example, you add something to A and B, and A happens in a particular way and B responds in a particular way, and you connect the idea of A and B together and you put them together once again, perhaps in a single verb phrase dominating simple sentence, but this time we are going to connect 2 simple sentences together to clear the idea. That is what we call compound. Compound means there are 2 things in it. In a simple sentence, just one verb phrase and one simple idea. In a compound sentence, you will get 2 ideas together connected. That is compound sentences. And when it comes to the third pattern, what we deal there is actually we bring the sentence into a next level where we make the sentence complex. How? We are going to create a sort of relationship like cause and effect, reason and result, condition and the consequence arising from the condition. So we'll be connecting complex ideas together, and in this case we'll be making complex sentences. And compound complex sentence is once again a next level of complexity. And when you navigate through each of these sentence patterns, you'll realize how they differ from one another and how well you understand it. So let's move to the next slide and see what is there. Okay, before I move on to this slide, I want to get a response from you. Everyone, please respond in your chat. What are the 4 types of sentences we use in academic writing? If you just observe the slide, you'll be able to detect it. And what I was discussing was that just a while ago. මට ඉක්මනට වන්න පුතේ රෙස්පොන්ස් එකක් විදියට chat එකේ මොනවද සිව් ආකාර වාක්‍ය රටා අපි STEM academic writing වලදී එහෙම නැත්නම් ඕනෑම academic writing එකකදී පාවිච්චි කරමු. Sahanya began. Thank you, Sahanya. Well, I want the response from others as well. Let me allow everyone able to chat. Yes, come on. Sahanya began giving response. I want others also to send your responses. Quickly, come on, don't waste your time. Now the simple, compound, complex, compound, complex. Okay. You guys have an idea what it is. Well, thank you. Adib also happened to respond. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide and see what is there. Now this is about simple sentence. Madam, will you kindly add some input into this? If you're around.
Yes, I'm around.
Okay, let me go ahead.
Can you
At any time you can
okay, these students must know what is an independent clause and a dependent clause.
Friends, do you know what is an independent clause and what is a dependent clause? Do you have an idea? A dependent clause is quite simply a sentence which can stand alone as a meaning. Say, for example, I went to school. Yeah, I went to school. I went to school, so that there is an idea. Person called I happened to go to school. It can stand alone. But if the writer is going to add something like I went
No,
to
I mean,
school.
in the independent clauses, it has a subject and a verb, right?
Yes.
It has only one verb in that sentence, and there's studies. Wait, I will look into it. You can go.
Right. So let's begin with this one. Independent clause is the simple idea of a simple sentence. Look at the example. The sensor recorded the temperature. You see one verb phrase therein. What is it? Recorded. Okay. Who recorded? The sensor recorded. And what it recorded? The temperature. So it has one clause in the sense one verb phrase alone, right? So Simple sentences are typically dominating in STEM writing. If you are going to describe steps in a procedure, starting a finding to, evolving from one step to the other and going through your procedures, quite simple. You describe each of these steps with one simple sentence at a time, using one independent clause at a time. So, for example, water is filled to the beaker, or rather, then you will go to say, beaker was kept on the burner. Now you see, in each of these sentences, you simply give, encapsulate, embed one idea in one independent clause with one verb phrase within it. So that is quite
We
simply the
have
simple
a
sentence.
independent. Now, simply independent clause has one subject and one predicate. So predicate subject is the one who does the action, and predicate is what is said about the action. So here in this sentence, the subject, we have only one subject, the sensor, and then you have one verb phrase that is recorded the temperature. Yeah. So and so that's the verb phrase. And if you're looking at the what is a clause? Clause is again it's not a sentence, but it has a, uh subject and a predicate, but it can be an incomplete thought. So wait. And also we are talking about phrases also. So phrase and the clause. Can you just now we have three students here. Ne? Just can you just do a simple Google search and distinguish what is a phrase, what is a clause? Just can you do that? Just go to Google or any source and just find the difference between a phrase and a clause.
Guys, I wish the exercise is clear. You are now invited to
Yeah.
do a Google search or any of your searching activities, and you are to distinguish between a phrase and a clause. So just identify what is a phrase and what is a clause and tell us what they are.
And also you can go for sentence, phrase, clause, and sentence. How does that three differ? You can distinguish the difference between these three elements, phrase, clause, and sentence.
And take about 2-3 minutes, search, and tell us what they stand for. What is a phrase, what is a clause, and what is a sentence, and how they differ from each other. And we are getting answers. Yes, Sahanya happened to share what she found.
Sahani, can you read out or just send me the answer? Send for everyone.
Yes, Sahanya, kindly send it for everyone so that everyone can see. And Adib also sent his response. Praise is when a group of words acts as a unit but doesn't include a subject or a predicate. Okay. Clause is when a group of words have a subject and a predicate. Okay. Sahanya has now shared her findings on everyone's space. And by now, we have only Sahanya and Adipa. Navedu happened to lose his connection. Okay, madam. Sahanya's illustrative table seem to be bringing a great
Yeah.
discussion.
Input. Yeah. So, yes. So if we can screen share Sahanya's illustration. No, we don't have to screen share, but so that's it. Now it simply says, now predicate is equals to verb phrase that Sir Prasanna discussed with you last week, and yes, so it's simply now phrase is a phrase has no no subject, but it can have a verb or something that a verb phrase, and a clause again can have a subject and a predicate. That is, it can have a subject and a verb, but it cannot be now. Sentence also has a subject and a predicate or a kind of a verb. But the difference between clause and the sentence is that clause now a sentence has a complete thought and it ends with a punctuation. I mean, it has a complete thought, and now clause and it ends in a punctuation. But now see clause එකක්, you can embed clauses inside sentences. But now if we get a sentence, we can't embed sentences into other sentences, but we can connect sentences in order to make paragraphs. So it's the difference between sentence and the clauses. Now, both of these has a subject and a verb phrase, but a complete thought is a sentence, but like an unfinished or like a half thought, we call it we can call it a clause, and we can like connect clauses together and make sentences. I mean, make sentences which are of complete thought.
Well, I wish the idea is clear. Sentence actually lies within the punctuation marks, whereas The clauses lie within the fragments of sentences, which means, they have complete thought, but still they are not concluded as a sentence with a punctuation mark, so that many clauses can be connected together and punctuated properly to make it a very meaningful sentence at the end of the day. So with that,
Also, we can connect phrases. Yeah, we can connect phrases and we can just make meaningful sentences. So these phrases and clauses are all fragments of sentences.
yes. So sentence is the bigger structure in which there can be phrases and clauses. And the number of clauses in a sentence is actually what determines whether it's a simple, compound, complex, or whatever it is. So with that, we are moving to the slide next and see what is a compound sentence. Now, as we happen to note in the first simple sentence discussion, it has just one independent clause and it has a complete thought and one sentence at a time. Now, when it comes to the compound sentence, can you all read the definition? Two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. Now you must be wondering, what is a coordinating conjunction? It's not a big deal. Coordination conjunctions are quite simply the simple connectors which we identify as fanboys for, and, not, or, yet, but, so, and so on, right? And what happens in a compound sentence is we are going to connect two ideas together. And with correct punctuations, we are going to make them connected and put it within one sentence. You got the example? The material expanded. You see the first clause there. The pressure increased. That is the second clause. The two clauses are connected with right punctuation. At the end of the first clause, you put a comma and then you add the coordinating conjunction, that is and then you put the second clause and place a full stop, right? The material expanded and the pressure increased. It rained and I used my umbrella. You see, the two ideas, two clauses, two independent clauses are connecting together. Okay, look at the usage. Where do we use them? So when you're going to describe related outcomes, or are the sequential, one happens to the other, one happens after the other. If something happens sequentially, we can actually connect them together with such coordinating conjunctions. First, then, and so on, and, or, and so on. So that is the nature of a compound sentence. Shall we move to the next slide, ma'am? Or have you got anything to add it? Which we can move, yes. Guys, is it clear? The compound sentence, what happens there? There comes two actual clauses. Here comes the first one and the second one, and you see it is connected with the coordinating conjunction. I'm sure it's clear. And with that, we'll be moving to the next level of sentences. Here we call it complex sentences. Look at the definition, what it tells. There is one independent clause and then there is another dependent clause. Now what we are doing here is, Putha, now we quite simply take two clauses together. One sentence or clause dominates the sentence, giving its idea fully. But the second clause, which gives its idea as well, is actually depending on the first independent clause. Without the help of the early or the latter, they cannot stand alone as a meaning. Look at the example. Now I am separating the example from dependent, independent natures. Just forget although, then look at the other two halves. Although the results varied slightly, the average remained constant. Okay. I'm taking off the first connector, although, and I'm looking at the next half of the sentence. Starting from here, the results varied slightly. You see, one complete idea is there. The results varied slightly. And the second thought is coming starting from here. The average remained constant. Results were constantly changing, but the average happened to remain stable. That is the idea. Now you see the two ideas are actually contradicting to one another. One is changing, the other is remaining same. In that case, to make it connected to one another, we use this particular connector with which we make the first half of the sentence or the first clause of the sentence a dependent clause, because without the help of the other half, it cannot fully understood. So for example, the results varied slightly is a one idea which is clear. But if you add although the results varied slightly, that particular idea is going to be connected with something else, and without that something else which connected to it, you cannot actually get the whole meaning. So that is the idea behind a complex sentence. What happens is two ideas are connected together, which a very serious relationship between the two clauses. So when you want to show contrast, when you want to show conditions, or rather maybe implications arising from something, then you are using complex sentences. So we have looked at three types of sentences: the simple, and then compound. In compound sentences, we use the coordinating conjunctions to connect two clauses together. Now, in the complex sentence, what happens is we actually connect two clauses together. One clause becomes an independent one because it cannot stand alone as a meaningful unit, but the other clause of the sentence cannot stand alone as a meaning because of its reliance with the next half of the sentence. Well, anything have you got to add here, madam?
Nothing, but yes. Do you know what is independent and dependent?
Friends, we are asking from you.
Can you spot out the independent clause and the dependent clause in this example?
Okay. Now, let's ask from you. Tell us what is the independent clause. Maybe in the chat. Just type out what is the independent.
And the coordinating conjunction, subordinating conjunction.
Yes. Here the subordinating conjunction is clear, and with that, one clause is making dependent, and without the subordinating conjunction, separated by a comma, the other remains independent. I helped you. Yes. Just send us in your chat what is the dependent clause, what is the independent clause. Adipa started sending the answer. Adipa, kindly type it on everyone's screen, not directly messaging to me. Please make sure that you send your chats in addressing to everyone. Yes. Sahanya happened to send us the answer, and Adip also happened to send us the answer. Can we hear from Navindu as well? Navindu, did you get the idea? Show us in this example sentence what is the dependent clause, what is the independent clause, and what is the element that connects them together, or rather that makes one clause dependent with the other. What made it? We call it subordinating conjunction. Navindu, we are waiting for your answer. Both Adip and Sahanya provided their answers. Thank you, Navindu. Although the results were slightly independent, yeah.
You
Okay.
have done.
Yes, ma'am. Add your comment, please.
No, what you have done now is you have made another sentence.
He seemed to have, yes. But he found that, what is dependent and what is independent.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next slide
Although
and
the
see.
results vary slightly dependent and the average remained constant. What is this? Remain constant is what is this? No. Yeah, sentence anime other thing. Although the results varied slightly is it neme and the average remain constant
Maybe
is
he's using a smaller device. Maybe it's an issue with the keyboard where he could not pick up the right word.
That's it. Yes.
No worries, Navedu. Yeah. Let's go ahead, madam.
We have Anjali, a new student.
Yes, I happen to invite some of the students who happen to quite recently made an inquiry what happens
Okay.
here. I invited her to come here and see what happens. Welcome, Tarushi.
Mm.
Okay, we are in the middle of a discussion, but let's move and see. Tarushi will pick it up somewhere. We'll see. Now we are moving to the last kind of sentences that we talk about in academic writing. We call this compound complex sentence. Now you see, when you name it compound complex, it gives the idea itself. There is some compound element and it includes a complex sentence as well. Look at the definition. At least two independent plus one dependent clause. Now, the number of independent clauses that a sentence can have is actually unlimited, but as we need to end up a sentence at a shorter breadth, we limit it to 2 or 3, right? In compound complex sentences, what happens is there comes a compound sentence in which you see a couple of independent clauses. And that is connected with a dependent clause, which we discussed quite a while ago. Using a subordinating conjunction, it is connected to another clause. Look at the example. The voltage increased. And although the resistance remained constant, the current fluctuated. Now there is a little task for you all to do. You know what it is. Show us what are the two independent clauses and what is the one dependent clause. You have to send it in
And
chat.
also I also have a question like, can we create sentences with infinite number of clauses and make the sentence very long?
Yes, this is what we call, the perfecting words. It was one of the ways that, the old day archaic people happened to make use as a word play. But there is a simple principle when you are connecting clauses together and making a sentence. What is it? We should actually respect that the reader is taking, he inhales and exhales and he's breathing. We have to actually accommodate your reader living after reading your sentence. So we should not kill a reader by setting many clauses together and making it really, really complicated. There are certain ethics when we are using lengthy sentences. True, compound complex sentence is the average, what we call average length of connecting clauses together. So which tells us 3 clauses together, 2 independent and 1 dependent. But still you can go a little beyond that. But the more clauses that you use in a sentence makes your reader exhaust in his cognitive engagement. එයාට යාගේ මොලේ වෙහසන්න වෙනවා ගොඩක්. මොලේ ගොඩක් වෙහසනකොට අවබෝධය පහසු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට අපි ලියන එකේ අරමුණිෂ්ඨ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි යමක් ලියන්නේ මොකටද? පණිවිඩයක් සංනිවේදනය කරන්නනේ. අපි පණිවිඩය පාඨකයාට දෙන එක එන්න සංකීර්ණ කරලා සම්පූර්ණ සංකීර්ණ දෙයක් කරාට පස්සේ අපි ලියන එකේ අර්ථය ගිලිහෙනවා. අන්න එතන තමයි සීමාව. කොච්චර clauses අපි එකතු කරනවාද කියන එක. Did I answer your question, madam?
Yes.
So our friends can keep as a rule of thumb, yes, you do not go beyond 3 clauses. So you will stop at compound complex sentences. But when you master the art, little by little, you will see that you can go beyond 2 clauses. Maybe maximum 4 clauses would be enough for a sentence so that it will be comprehensive to your reader. Well, there is a task that we have given to you. What is it? Take this example sentence and detect what are the 2 independent clauses and what is the 1 dependent clause in it. And if you simply look at the punctuation marks, these clauses are located within punctuation marks. When you see there is a comma break, which tells it's 1 clause. And there is another comma break, another clause. And then the 3rd clause is finished with a period or punctuation mark. Full stop. So the 3 clauses are clear, but we need you to identify which 2 are dependent, which 2 are independent, and which one is dependent. We are getting answers from Sahanya.
Can we? I don't have the laptop with me, but if you have the laptop, shall we give them some tasks? Like we will give them some clauses and then ask them to combine and make sentences as they wish.
Yes, yes. I think there is an activity like that coming.
Okay.
Sahanya provided one answer. You all can see. The voltage increased, the resistance remained constant. She considered them to be independent. The current fluctuated with although in it. Yeah, that is dependent. Now quite simple, Putha. You can detect it. How? Usually the dependent clause begins with the subordinating conjunction. Independent clauses do not associate subordinate conjunctions. They simply associate conjunctions but not subordinate conjunctions. Here although is a subordinate conjunction, and starting from although to the next comma is the dependent clause, whereas the other two are independent clauses. Is it
Shall I
clear?
tell a common mistake with what they all do?
Yes,
I mean,
yes. Why not, ma'am? You are here for that.
Yes, in most of the writings I have seen that now these students, they just start the sentence and they just go on writing, adding clauses and then with conjunctions, and then they end the sentence, and then the sentence begins in something and then ends in something. There's no single thought. Like there are multiple thoughts. I mean, multiple means several thoughts in that sentence, and yeah, that's it. Like the thing is that they do not distinguish uh, a single idea into one sentence. They just try to combine lots of things into one sentence, and then what they say in the beginning, what the idea they try to convey in the beginning of the sentence, and when we read through those sentences, like it spans along like 3 lines in the notebook, and then when we come to the full stop, again there's the opposite meaning that is conveyed from what they have started in their sentence.
Quite simple, guys. What you have to say is have the ideas in mind and put them into words. And when you connect them, detect what is dependent and what is independent, and correctly punctuate it, and make sure that between the periods in the sense from the capital letter we start to the full stop, there has to be a connecting flow on which one complete idea is communicated. If you are going to multiply the number of ideas communicated within within one sentence between the capital letter and the full stop, that is what Madam was indicating. You have ideas coming in, and you are simply pumping that into sentences or other clauses, and you forget where to end up the first sentence, and as a result, what you thought is not what is communicated. එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන් දරුවනේ. ඒක නිසා හැම විටම ලියාගෙන යද්දී dependent clauses, independent clauses සීමිත ප්‍රමාණයකින් ඔබේ අදහස කිසියම් තැනකදී ඉවර කරලා අලුත් අදහසක් පටන් ගනිමින් යන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ එක වාක්‍යයකදී එක අදහසකට වඩා කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න යන්න එපා. එහෙම වුණාම ඔයා කියන්න ඕන දේ කියවෙන්නේ නැහැ වගේම අපි ලියන එකේ අර්ථය සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම විනාශ වෙනවා. Well, let's move on to the next slide and see some of the common sentence errors. Now, this is what you were referring to, weren't you, ma'am?
Yes.
Look at, now you deal with clauses, you deal with punctuation, and you deal with subordinating and other conjunctions. Now these things actually are to split or rather slice, fragment the sentences. And you have to make sure that your fragmentation, your slicing happens meaningfully at right places. Look at the 3 errors indicated here. The first thing is sentence fragment. Sentence fragment means, there are words that you put together, but they do not altogether express a complete thought. Then it's sentence fragment, and which is useless. Useless in the sense which kills your writing ability. Your idea is not properly communicated. You think that you have written it, but it is not communicated, so that the rest of the ideas that you put next to it is going to be meaningless. The second point is run-on sentence, which means you actually connect 2 or more ideas and you forget to put the appropriate punctuation. Now, say for example, you put two independent clauses and you forgot to place the punctuation marks. So what happens? They are not appropriately connected. They run on sentences, so the reader cannot understand which one to be connected with the other and where all this happens. And one of the other failures that you happen to commit in writing sentences is comma splice, which means you use the comma not to punctuate, but just to indicate something like a meter in the sense, just to indicate a separation line without connecting the separating point with its meaningful comprehension. So for example, when the circuit failed, the light turned on, the test failed, then it was repeated. We are going to put all those things. Now in the fragment you see when the circuit failed. Now you see there is no proper ending to the sentence because it is a dependent clause, because when the subordinating conjunction begins it, and with that what happens is the sentence remains not completely expressing its idea. Look at the run-on example. The light turned on, it stayed on. What happens? There are two independent clauses, but you do not properly punctuated it. The light turned on, comma, it stayed on. It has to be corrected like that. Third thing is comma splice. You see, the test failed, it was repeated. So what happens? What happens? The test failed, it was repeated. There was a test which failed, and the failed thing happened to be repeating. That is the idea communicated, right?
Yeah, comma, can you put a semicolon or a colon?
Instead
Because
of,
it's two independent sentences. Yes, instead of the comma,
yeah.
because it's the incorrect use of comma. Can we link two independent clauses with a comma?
Yes, two independent clauses can be connected with a comma, but if the particular sentence hasn't got any other comma coming in. But if there is any other comma coming in, the initial has to be corrected with semicolon.
Okay.
Now, the idea is this, Putha. Now, there are different types of punctuations. Comma, hyphen, full stop, question mark, colon, semicolon, m dash, n dash, and so on, right? And we will take that discourse probably in a future session where what to be used, but quite simple. Now semicolon and comma are doing almost the same function, but in a semicolon we take a bigger pause than in a comma. Comma's time that we pause is slower, not slower, very quick, but when you take a semicolon, we take a bigger pause in the sentence. Well, let's move on to move beyond the sentence.
Yes, and also yes. So in the chat there's just a big sentence with lots of clauses added. I just wanted to say that now here there are lots of ideas in this one sentence. It has like five lines, but it has it's only one single sentence. So it's better if you could break this whole bigger sentence into shorter versions with one complete idea in one sentence. That's this is like a typical mistake that most ESL learners do when they when they go on writing.
Well, guys, is the idea clear? ඔයාලට තියෙන වැඩේ පැහැදිලිද පුතේ? අපි chat එකේ මැඩම් එවලා තියෙන sentence එක ideas කීපයක් තියෙන sentence එකක් ඒක හරියට punctuate කරලා නැහැ. So make it properly
Not
punctuated.
punctuate. I didn't tell them to punctuate, but I just said them not to write like these sentences, like connecting lots of clauses, and like you don't have one single idea in this sentence. Ne? So
Yep,
just
yep.
if you're just better if you could when you're writing sentences, make them shorter and include like only one complete thought in one sentence. Like don't go into big sentences connecting lots of ideas in one sentence.
And let me tell you one personal experience with regard to this. Now, one of the mistakes that I was doing when I was studying for my master's in TESOL was that previously I happened to master things in literature, so that in literature we tend to write very complex sentences which are really, really lengthy. So, which includes more than one complete, it has one complete thought, but it is connected with many arguments put together. So that pattern came into appear in my TESOL writing. And on the very first day, my professors start to hate me, telling that your sentences are actually adding a lot of cognitive weight. And this is a remark even Madam Ashwini sometimes put on me. Yes, when I speak, when I am to connect couple of maybe many half a dozen of ideas together, in spoken discourse, you don't see any comma or punctuation, but just little pauses. But it is difficult for a reader to process because there has to be a length which is fair enough for anyone to comprehend at a given time. So what Madam Ashwini suggested you is quite simply make your sentences shorter and have one main idea alone and correctly
Because
punctuated.
again, this is scientific writing, so you have to be like very direct and very you should be precise, and the sentences should have clarity. So it's the
Yes.
basic, like it's the basic rules of thumb in scientific writing.
Yeah. It's without clarity, you cannot move in scientific discourse. So you have to make sure that one point is clearly stated and then move on to the next point and so on, because every step is really, really significant in scientific writing. So we are moving into a peer review activity, ma'am. Now we have only 3 of you, but you don't need to go into a group, but you can do it alone. Review the following sentences with yes. Label the sentence type. That is the first task, right? And then identify if there is any grammar issue affecting its clarity. So you'll be seeing these sentences in the next slide. What you're supposed to do is you have to review, you have to study the sentences and label the sentence type, simple, compound, complex compound, and so on. And if there is any grammar mistake, grammar issue, maybe punctuation issue, anything that missed the clarity of the sentence, identify them, right? Here we are moving to the slide. Take about 5 minutes and identify the sentences and study them and see whether there are issues in clarity and how can you correct them. The sentence number you can indicate in your chat what type of a sentence it is, then whether it is properly written and punctuated. And if any sentence is not properly punctuated, you can rewrite it correctly.
And also there's a sentence example, another example where like you guys would tend to write like these sentences, like you are in a state, you are not beginner level, but you're not intermediate, but you are like advanced, stepping up into the advanced stage of advanced level proficiency in English, and then you acquire a lot of vocabulary, and you have again like some a substantial amount of exposure to the language, and what you are going to do is like you are going to write complex sentences in your writing. Now see the example, now see that example and try to understand like what the writer does wrong in this example. Now this is an example from a again a scientific discourse. Now it's better, my advice is, now writing in science does not tell that you have to write more advanced long sentences and with advanced words and everything, but the base, the I mean the foundation, I mean the core is that you have to be very precise, and as well as your sentence should be very like clear. It should have clarity. So better if you could not go into sentences like this with lot of clauses connecting and not a single idea in one sentence, but rather break sentences into small parts and ensure that you have only one complete idea in one sentence.
So the simple idea is scientific writing has to be crystal clear to entertain, accommodate crystal clarity. What you have to do is you have to write them short and one idea in one sentence and in the simplest possible way so that no doubts, it's clearly stated, and move on to the next idea. So that is simple, the tenet or the rule of thumb in scientific writing. And in STEM and scientific writing, you don't need to, as Madam Ashwini happened to indicate, you don't need to show how fluent you are in the language. Your fluency is indicated through how clear your language is. Your clarity should be achieved by making sentences into simplest possible and clearest, make every sentence clearer and clearer. And it's okay to be shorter in terms of the length of the sentence, but clarity is a central tenet, central principle that we want to maintain in scientific writing. Can we receive your responses to the activity sentence? We want you to identify them and label them, and if there is any punctuation or any other error, you have to write it clearly and indicate. Come on. Waiting for your responses, guys. Need more time? I think the given time is enough. Please respond on your chats. Sanya and Adiba. We have nearly 10 minutes left. Can I receive your sentences on chat, please? Yeah, we are receiving. So Adipa detected what sentences are there. Okay, and Adipa, didn't you detect any error in punctuation or anything? It seems not. Okay, what he detected was the first one is okay. It's as simple as ABC, right? It is ordered in such a way, starting from simple and then compound, then complex, and then compound complex. Thank you, Sanya. Yes. Yes.
And can you just go through the internet or any searching tool and find out what are coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions are, and yeah, just copy and paste some subordinating conjunctions and coordinating conjunctions here in the chat. And you need to distinguish. Can you just find out what's the difference between coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions? I mean, in which instances we should use subordinating conjunctions, and in which instances you should use coordinating conjunctions. Yes. So Sahanya's response, I mean, it's very illustrative again. So see, now subordinating conjunctions, you can connect a dependent clause to an independent clause. But coordinating conjunctions, you link two equal elements, I mean, two words or two phrases or two clauses. So yeah, so fanboys, for and not but yet or yes, so they are coordinating conjunctions, and subordinating conjunctions because although if when since unless එකේ වෙනස තමයි අර dependent එකයි independent clause එකයි වගේ අසමාන දෙකක් අපි මේ connect කරන්නේ subordinating වලින්. එතකොට clauses දෙකක් phrases දෙකක් නැත්නම් words දෙකක් අපි connect කරන්නේ coordinating conjunctions වලින්. එතකොට subordinating conjunctions we use for like to express cost. හරි අපි ඒක next session එකේ චුට්ටක් elaborate කරලා we'll discuss. And yes, so are we going to stop here?
Yeah, I think we are coming to the tail end, last 2-3 minutes. Yes. So quite simple, guys. What we were trying today was to convince you that in your writing, you can start with simple sentences and you can, make it little advanced by making compound sentences, duplicating two verb phrases in one sentence, but still clearly punctuating to.
Homework. So for your homework, I'm giving you the simple sentence, the sense activated. එතකොට homework එකට ඒක sense activated කියන simple sentence එක use කරගන්න sentence fragment එකක් වගේ use that as a clause and then create a complex sentence, a compound sentence, and also a complex compound sentence. So that's your homework. The simple sentences or the clauses, the independent clause is the sense activated. So you have to create using that clause or the simple sentence. You have to create a complex sentence. You have to go on extending that simple sentence, right? You have to create a complex sentence, compound sentence, and also a complex compound sentence. Did you get the homework?
Well, if you need elaboration, yes, we can go on to elaborate that and upload a document out there, maybe with an example. And one more thing. So we are coming to the 10th session by next week, but we could not administer any test on your group. So this week we'll be adding you some quizzes from the things that we've been discussing so far. And be ready, starting from tomorrow, you have to go to Moodle page and do some activities other than, simply watching the recording and going through the slides. So make sure that you complete them before we meet on Saturday. And you have a Friday holiday, so that with that you can attend to those things. Madam, have you got anything to say further?
Good night. I would say good night to them.
Okay. Guys, then good night for the day. Any questions Sahanya and Adib has got to ask today from the little thing that we have discussed so far? If not, certainly we can say goodbye and good night. Looking forward to see you next week. Next week in the sense this Saturday with Spirit. Thank you. Good night, guys. Stay safe.